They say that money talks, but in the exclusive world of Manhattan's elite, money lies. It covers up sins, it buries secrets, and it buys silence. But there is one thing $1 billion couldn't account for: a waitress named Maya, who became invisible the moment she put on her uniform. She was supposed to pour the champagne and look at the floor. Instead, she looked up. And what she saw in the shadows of a wine cellar didn't just break a marriage. It started a war. This is the story of how a spilled secret turned a struggling waitress into the wife of the city's most ruthless billionaire. But be warned, the wedding was only the beginning of the nightmare. The Onyx Room didn't smell like food. It smelled of old money, heavy perfume, and the kind of desperation that only exists when a 6-figure deal is on the line. Maya adjusted the collar of her stiff black uniform, wincing as a sharp pain shot up her left calf. She had been on her feet for 10 hours. The chaotic clatter of the kitchen faded as she pushed through the heavy velvet curtains into the VIP section. Here, the lights were dim, the jazz was soft, and the clientele, men like Jonas Blackwood, could destroy a company with a single text message. Jonas Blackwood. Everyone knew him. At 34, he was the CEO of Blackwood & Co., a logistics and tech empire that effectively ran the supply chains of the Eastern Seaboard. He was sitting at table 1, the best seat in the house, looking bored. He was handsome in a severe, terrifying way, with dark hair swept back and eyes that looked like shattered glass. Opposite him sat Serena, his fiancée. She was the picture of bridal perfection, blonde, glowing, and wearing a diamond on her finger that cost more than Maya would earn in 10 lifetimes. They were the tabloid's golden couple. "More champagne, sir?" Maya asked, her voice practiced and hollow. Jonas didn't look at her. He just tapped the rim of his glass. "The vintage, 1988. "I'll have to fetch a fresh bottle from the cellar, Mr. Blackwood," she said. He waved a hand dismissively. To him, she was furniture. Maya retreated, navigating the maze of tables to the service elevator. She needed the key card for the reserve wine cellar in the basement. It was a cold, soundproof vault where the bottles worth $50,000 slept in dust. She swiped the card and the heavy steel door hissed open. The air inside was frigid. Maya moved to the back, scanning the racks for the 98 Krug. It was quiet down here. Peaceful. Then the heavy steel door hissed again. Maya froze. Staff weren't supposed to be down here in pairs during service. She instinctively stepped into the shadows behind a towering rack of Bordeaux, clutching the expensive bottle to her chest. "Are you insane, Dominic?" "Not here." The voice was sharp, hushed, and unmistakable. It was Serena. "Relax. The staff are all upstairs running around like headless chickens for your engagement party." This voice was deeper, smoother. Maya peeked through the gap in the bottles. It was Dominic Sterling, Jonas's cousin, his CFO, the man who was supposed to be the best man at the wedding next week. Maya stopped breathing. Dominic pressed Serena against the wine rack, his hands wandering familiarly over the waist of her designer dress. "He suspects nothing," Dominic said, a smirk playing on his lips. "I went over the prenup this morning. The merger clause is watertight. Once you two say, 'I do,' the voting rights for the shipping division transfer to you as a good faith wedding gift." Serena laughed, a cruel, tinkling sound. "God, he's so pathetic. He actually thinks I care about his supply chain algorithms. He's been so desperate for someone to love him since his parents died. He's blind." "And once we have the voting rights?" Dominic asked, kissing her neck. "We sell the division to Riker Corp, tank the stock, and buy Jonas out for pennies on the dollar," Serena whispered. "Then I file for divorce, take my settlement, and we run Blackwood together." Maya's hand trembled. The bottle of 1998 Krug slipped, hitting the wooden rack with a dull thud. Silence filled the room. "What was that?" Serena hissed, pushing Dominic away. "Probably the cooling unit," Dominic said, though he sounded unsure. "Come on, we can't be gone too long. Jonas is already in a foul mood." They straightened their clothes and exited, the heavy door clicking shut behind them. Maya slumped against the rack, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. This wasn't just cheating. This was corporate homicide. They were going to destroy Jonas Blackwood, not just his heart, but his life's work. She looked at the bottle in her hand. She was nobody. She had $400 in her bank account, and rent was due in 3 days. If she caused a scene, she'd be fired. Who would believe the waitress over the fiancée and the CFO? "He's desperate for someone to love him," Serena had said. Maya gritted her teeth. She grabbed the bottle and marched to the elevator. She wasn't a hero, but she wasn't a coward. Maya returned to the dining room. The atmosphere had shifted. The jazz band was playing something upbeat, and people were clapping. Jonas was standing, holding a glass, looking at Serena with a rare, softened expression. Dominic was sitting 2 seats away, checking his watch, looking like the loyal best friend. Maya approached the table. Her hands were shaking so badly, the champagne flute on her tray rattled. "Your champagne, sir," she said. Jonas glanced at her, annoyed by the rattling. "You're shaking. Put it down before you drop it." "Mr. Blackwood," Maya said. Her voice was barely a whisper. She couldn't do this. There were too many people. "What?" he snapped. I need to." She looked at Serena. Serena was smiling at her, a predatory, vacuous smile. She doesn't even see me, Maya thought. Maya took a deep breath. She reached into her apron pocket for her ordering pad. She scribbled 4 words on the back of the receipt. Seller, Dominic, Riker Corp. She placed the receipt face down under his champagne glass. "Check the vintage," she said loudly, her voice cracking. I think the cork was compromised." Jonas frowned. "It's a fresh bottle?" "Please, sir, just check." Her eyes locked onto his. For the first time, he actually looked at her. He saw the terror in her brown eyes. He saw the sweat on her hairline. He picked up the glass. He picked up the receipt. He read it. Maya watched his face. He didn't gasp. He didn't yell. He went perfectly, terrifyingly still. The color drained from his face, leaving him looking like a marble statue. He looked at the receipt, then slowly shifted his gaze to Dominic, then to Serena. "Is something wrong, darling?" Serena asked, reaching for his hand. Jonas pulled his hand away, as if she were made of acid. He stood up. "Music off," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried instantly. The band stopped. The room went silent. "Jonas?" Dominic stood up, laughing nervously. "What's going on?" Jonas looked at Maya. "You. Come with me." "Jonas, where are you going?" Serena demanded, standing up, her smile faltering. "To the cellar," Jonas said, his voice like ice, "to check the security footage." Serena's face collapsed. It wasn't a gradual realization. It was an instant crash. The glass dropped from her hand, shattering on the floor. Dominic went pale. "Security!" Jonas barked. 2 large men in suits materialized from the shadows. "Detain Mr. Vane and Miss Sterling. If they try to leave, break their legs." The Onyx room erupted into chaos. Phones came out. People gasped. Jonas grabbed Maya's wrist. His grip was iron. "Show me. Now." He dragged her not to the cellar, but to the manager's office. He kicked the door open, startling the manager, and shoved him out. He slammed the door and locked it. He turned to Maya. He looked dangerous. A vein was throbbing in his temple. Tell me exactly what you heard, he commanded, word for word, and if you lie to me, I will make sure you never work in this city again. Maya swallowed hard. She told him everything. The voting rights, the merger, Riker Corp, the pathetic comment. When she finished, Jonas didn't scream. He walked to the window and looked out at the New York skyline. He took a heavy crystal decanter of whiskey and hurled it against the far wall. It exploded, amber liquid raining down over his diplomas. He braced his hands on the desk, breathing heavily. They think I'm blind, he whispered. My own cousin. He turned back to Maya. He looked her up and down, really assessing her. What's your name? Maya. Maya Linwood. Well, Maya Linwood, Jonas said, straightening his tie, though his hands were trembling slightly. You just saved me $3 billion, but you also created a massive problem. I'm sorry? The merger, he said, pacing. The Blackwood-Halloway merger relies on me being married by the end of the fiscal quarter. That's in 4 days. It's a family trust stipulation. If I don't marry, I lose control of the board, and Dominic wins anyway. He stopped pacing. He looked at Maya. A strange, calculated light entered his eyes. You need money, don't you? Maya blinked. Excuse me? Your shoes are worn out. You're working a double shift on a Friday. You have a tan line on your finger where a ring used to be. Pawned it? Maya flushed. That's none of your business. I'm making it my business. How much debt? Mr. Blackwood, I should get back to my tables. 50,000? 100? My mother has cancer, Maya blurted out, angry tears stinging her eyes. Medical bills. Are you happy now? Jonas nodded once. $1 million. The room went silent. What? I will pay off your mother's medical bills. I will give you $1 million in a trust. In exchange, you walk out of this room, you go downstairs, and you leave with me. Leave with you where? To City Hall, Jonas said. You're going to be my wife. Maya stared at him. You're in shock. You don't know what you're saying. I never say things I don't mean, Jonas replied, pulling out his phone and typing furiously. The press is already outside. If I walk out there alone, the stock drops 15% by morning. If I walk out there, having just dumped the cheetah for the true love I found, the narrative changes. It becomes a romance. The stock holds. This is insane. I'm a waitress. And Cinderella was a maid. People love that garbage, Jonas snapped. He looked up from his phone. Do we have a deal, or do I go find the hostess? Maya thought of her mother. The chemo treatments were draining them dry, the eviction notices piling up on the kitchen counter. She looked at Jonas. He was an arrogant, hurt, desperate man offering her a lifeline wrapped in madness. $2 million, Maya said. Jonas paused. A corner of his mouth twitched. Done. And full medical coverage for your mother at Mount Sinai. And a divorce clause. After 1 year, I walk away free. Agreed. But for that year, you are mine. You live in my house, you attend my events, you play the part. No boyfriends, no scandals. Maya took a deep breath. She untied her apron and let it drop to the floor. Deal. Jonas didn't smile. He opened the door. Let's go. Don't look at the cameras. Just look at me. Walking out of the Onyx room was a blur. The flashbulbs were blinding. Reporters were screaming questions. Jonas, is it true? Serena says you're crazy. Jonas wrapped his arm around Maya's waist. He pulled her close, shielding her face from the aggressive paparazzi. For a second, amidst the chaos, she smelled his cologne, sandalwood and cold rain. He felt solid, protective, even if it was fake. They dove into the back of his waiting limousine. The door slammed shut, cutting off the noise. Drive, Jonas told the driver. As the car pulled away, Maya looked out the tinted window. She saw Serena standing on the curb, mascara running down her face, screaming at a security guard. Dominic was nowhere to be seen. Maya looked at Jonas. He was already on his laptop, his face illuminated by the blue light. The protective husband act had vanished instantly. "We have a fitting with my tailor at 6 a.m., he said, without looking up. "My PR team is drafting your backstory. We're going to say we met at a charity gala 6 months ago and reconnected tonight. Can you memorize a script?" "I can try," Maya said quietly. "Good. Don't get comfortable, Mrs. Linwood. This is a business transaction, nothing more." Maya looked down at her hands. She had traded her apron for a golden cage, but at least her mother would live. 3 days later. The wedding was small, hasty, and incredibly expensive. It was held at Jonas's estate in the Hamptons. Security was tighter than the Pentagon. Maya stood in front of the mirror in the master suite. The dress was a Vera Wang, custom, silk and lace that fit her like a second skin. Her hair was swept up, diamonds dripping from her ears. She didn't recognize herself. There was a knock on the door. It was Jonas. He was wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than her parents' house. He stopped when he saw her. For a split second, his mask slipped. His eyes widened, and he forgot to check his watch. "You look—" He trailed off. He cleared his throat and checked his cufflinks. "Adequate. The press will eat it up." "Thank you, Jonas." "You look adequate too," she shot back. He looked at her sharply, then gave a short, dry chuckle. "Ready to sign your life away?" "I signed the papers an hour ago. This part is just theatre." They walked down the aisle of the garden together. The guests were a mix of confused business partners and skeptical socialites. Maya could hear the whispers. "The waitress?" "Gold digger. Rebound." She kept her head high. She focused on the altar. The priest began the ceremony. When it came time for the vows, Jonas recited his with perfect, emotionless diction. He promised to love, honor, and cherish. It sounded like he was reading a quarterly earnings report. Then it was Maya's turn. She looked at him. She saw the lines of exhaustion around his eyes, the way he held his jaw tight to keep it from trembling. He was a billionaire, but he was completely alone, betrayed by the only family he had left. "I promise," Maya said, going off script, "to be loyal, to tell you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it, and to have your back, even when the world turns theirs." Jonas stared at her. The air between them shifted. This wasn't the script. "I do," she finished. "I do," he echoed, his voice slightly lower than before. "You may kiss the bride." Jonas leaned in. Maya expected a peck on the cheek. Instead, his hand came up to cup her jaw. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. He kissed her. It wasn't a show kiss. It was hard, possessive, and surprisingly warm. Maya's breath hitched. For 5 seconds, the business deal felt dangerously real. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark. "Ladies and gentlemen," the priest announced, "Mr. and Mrs. Jonas Blackwood." Applause rang out, but as they turned to walk back up the aisle, Maya saw a figure standing at the back of the garden, just outside the security perimeter. It was Serena. She was wearing black, and she was smiling. Maya squeezed Jonas's arm. "Jonas!" "Look!" Jonas looked. His face hardened into stone. "Ignore her," he whispered, guiding Maya forward. "The war has just begun." The penthouse at 432 Park Avenue was less of a home and more of a museum in the sky. It was all glass, chrome, and silence. Maya stood in the center of the living room, clutching a canvas tote bag that contained her entire life. 3 pairs of jeans, some t-shirts, and a framed photo of her mother. It looked laughably out of place against the Italian leather sofas. "Your room is the second door on the left," Jonas said, not looking up from his tablet. He was already back in CEO mode, the wedding tuxedo discarded for a crisp white shirt and slacks. "My room is on the right. Do not enter my room unless the building is on fire." "Understood," Maya said. "There is a gala tomorrow night," Jonas continued, walking toward his office. "The Holloway merger celebration. You will need to speak. My assistant, Isabel, has sent over talking points. Memorize them. Do not embarrass me." He slammed his office door shut. Maya let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. She walked to the window and looked out at the city. She was Mrs. Jonas Blackwood. She had a platinum card in her wallet and a closet full of clothes she hadn't bought. But she had never felt more alone. The next evening, the Plaza Hotel was glittering. This was Maya's debut. She wore a deep emerald gown that brought out the flecks of green in her brown eyes. Jonas looked devastating in a midnight blue tuxedo, his hand resting firmly on the small of her back. To the cameras, it was a protective gesture. To Maya, it felt like a warning. "Stay close. Don't mess this up." "Smile," he whispered through gritted teeth as they walked the red carpet. "You adore me." "I'm trying," Maya whispered back, plastering on a dazzling smile. "But you're making it very hard to be adorable." Jonas almost smirked. Almost. Inside the ballroom was a sea of sharks. Every competitor, every partner, and every gossip columnist was watching them. They wanted to see the waitress who snagged the billionaire. They wanted to see her trip. "Mr. Blackwood," a booming voice called out. It was Richard Holloway, the other half of the merger, an older man with a skepticism etched into his wrinkles. And this must be the surprise bride. "Maya," she said, extending her hand firmly. "It's a pleasure, Mr. Holloway. I've been reading about your sustainable shipping initiatives in the Pacific. The integration with my husband's, logistics software is brilliant." Holloway raised an eyebrow. He looked at Jonas. "She reads the briefs?" "She reads everything," Jonas said smoothly, though Maya saw a flicker of surprise in his eyes. The night was going well. Maya was charming, polite, and thanks to a sleepless night studying Jonas's files, she actually knew what she was talking about. She was starting to relax. Then, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. A hush swept over the crowd near the entrance. Maya turned. Serena had arrived. She wasn't wearing black this time. She was wearing red. A dress so vibrant and cut so low it was an act of war. And she wasn't alone. She was on the arm of Victor Draven, Jonas's biggest rival, the CEO of Riker Corp, the very company she had plotted to sell Jonas's division to. Jonas went rigid beside Maya. "Don't react," he murmured. "She's trying to bait us." Serena and Victor glided through the crowd, parting the sea of guests. They stopped directly in front of Jonas and Maya. "Jonas," Serena purred. "Congratulations. The wedding photos looked quaint, very rustic." She turned her gaze to Maya, her eyes raking over her with disdain. "And you must be the help." "Oh, I'm sorry, the wife. It's so hard to tell the difference these days." Maya felt a flash of anger, but she remembered the contract. No scandals. "Hello, Serena," Maya said calmly. "It's nice to see you moving on so quickly, and with Mr. Draven, no less. I suppose second place suits you." A few people nearby gasped. Victor Draven scowled. Serena's smile tightened. She took a step closer, invading Maya's personal space. She held a glass of red wine. "You think you've won, you little charity case," Serena hissed, low enough that only they could hear. "But you're just a placeholder. Jonas doesn't love anything but his reflection. Give it a month. He'll get bored, and you'll be back scrubbing floors." "Is that what happened to you?" Maya asked innocently. Did he get bored? Or did he just realize you were stealing from the company? Serena's eyes flashed with rage. In a motion that looked accidental, but was purely calculated, she lurched forward. The glass of red wine tipped, aimed directly at Maya's emerald dress. It happened in slow motion. If Maya had been a debutante, she would have frozen. But Maya had been a waitress for 7 years. She had dodged tray spills, drunk patrons, and flying dishes. Her reflexes kicked in. She sidestepped smoothly to the left, pivoting on her heel. The wine missed her completely and splashed all over the pristine white shirt of Richard Halloway, who was standing right behind her. The ballroom went silent. Richard Halloway looked down at his red-stained chest. He looked at Serena. He looked furious. "Miss Sterling," Halloway boomed, "I believe you've had enough." Serena stood there, her hand still extended, the empty glass shaking. She looked at Jonas. Jonas stepped forward. He didn't look at Serena. He took a handkerchief from his pocket and handed it to Halloway. "My apologies, Richard," Jonas said, his voice loud and clear. "It seems my ex-fiancée is having trouble accepting that Blackwood & Co. has upgraded its standards. Security?" 2 guards were there in seconds. They took Serena by the elbows. "Get off me!" she shrieked, her composure cracking. "Jonas, you're making a mistake. She's trash. She's nothing." As they dragged her out, kicking and screaming, Maya stood tall. She didn't look down. Jonas turned to her. For the first time, there was no calculation in his eyes. There was respect. "Nice dodge," he said quietly. "Occupational hazard," Maya replied, her heart pounding. Jonas placed a hand on her shoulder. He looked at the room, addressing the staring crowd. "Shall we continue the celebration? My wife and I have a merger to close." For the rest of the night, Jonas didn't leave her side. And later, in the car ride home, he didn't pull away when her leg brushed against his. "You did well tonight," he said, staring out the window. "Halloway is impressed. He signed the deal." "I didn't do it for the deal," Maya said softly. "I did it because she was wrong about you." Jonas turned to look at her, his expression unreadable in the shadows of the limousine. "What do you mean?" "She said you only love your reflection. But I saw you tonight. You protected me. You protected Halloway. You care more than you let on, Jonas Blackwood." Jonas looked away, jaw tightening. "Don't analyze me, Maya. Stick to the script." But as they walked into the penthouse that night, he hesitated at his bedroom door. "Good night, Maya," he said. The harshness was gone from his voice. "Good night, Jonas." 2 weeks passed. Life in the penthouse settled into a strange rhythm. Maya visited her mother at Mount Sinai Hospital every morning. The treatments were working. Her mother was gaining color back in her cheeks, blissfully unaware that her daughter's marriage was a contract. She thought it was a fairy tale. Maya didn't have the heart to tell her the truth. In the evenings, Maya and Jonas would eat dinner together. At first, it was silent. Then, they started talking about work. Then, about books. Maya learned that Jonas liked old sci-fi novels and hated cilantro. Jonas learned that Maya had been studying for a law degree at night before her mother got sick and she had to drop out. "You should go back," Jonas said one night over pasta. "To school. I'll pay for it." "I don't want your money, Jonas. You've given me enough." "It's an investment," he argued, though his eyes were warm. "A CEO needs a smart wife." "I thought I was just the placeholder," she teased. Jonas stopped eating. He looked at her, his gaze intense. "You're becoming indispensable." The air between them crackled with tension. It was the kind of tension that happens right before a kiss. But then, Jonas's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and the warmth vanished. "I have to go to the office," he said abruptly, standing up. "Emergency board meeting. Dominic is trying to file an injunction against the merger." "At 10 p.m.? He's desperate. Don't wait up." Jonas left. Maya felt a cold pit in her stomach. The next morning the penthouse was empty. Jonas hadn't come home. Maya was drinking coffee in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. It wasn't the doorman. It was a courier. "Package for Mrs. Blackwood," the man said. Maya signed for it. It was a sleek black envelope. No return address. She opened it. Inside was a single flash drive and a note typed on plain paper. "He's lying to you. Check the drive." Folder. Project Clytemnestra. Maya frowned. She went to the study and plugged the drive into the guest laptop. She clicked the folder. It contained hundreds of emails and documents. They were dated 6 months ago. They were conversations between Jonas and his private investigator. Subject: candidate search for wife. Role: criteria: financially desperate, no strong family ties, pliable, clean record. Candidate 14, Maya Linwood. Debts: high. Vulnerability: sick mother. Status: perfect target. Maya felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. The emails detailed everything. Jonas hadn't spontaneously chosen her that night in the restaurant. He had been watching her for months. He knew about the debt. He knew about her mother. The waitress catches cheater incident? She read further. Email from Jonas to PI. "We need a catalyst. If Serena doesn't slip up soon, we manufacture a reason to break the engagement. I need the Linwood girl in place by Q3. Maya slammed the laptop shut. Tears burned her eyes. It wasn't fate. It wasn't even a lucky accident. It was a setup. He had planned to use her all along. He knew Serena was cheating. He was just waiting for the right moment to catch her, so he could swap her out for a pliable wife to secure his merger. She felt sick. Used. The front door opened. Jonas walked in, looking exhausted. He loosened his tie. "Dominic is a cockroach," he muttered, rubbing his temples. "We were in legal mediation all night. Maya, is there coffee?" Maya stood in the doorway of the study. She was shaking. "Did you know?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jonas stopped. He looked up, confused. "Did I know what?" "Did you know about Serena and Dominic before that night in the cellar?" Jonas went still. "Maya, what are you talking about?" "Project Clytemnestra." She spat the words out. Jonas's face drained of color. He looked at the laptop on the desk, then back at her. "Where did you get that?" "Someone sent it to me. Probably the only person honest enough to tell me the truth." "Maya, listen to me," Jonas said, taking a step forward, his hands raised. "It's not what it looks like." "It looks like you scouted me like a racehorse," she screamed. "You targeted me because I was poor and desperate. You let Serena cheat so you could have a public excuse to dump her and marry me." "I suspected they were plotting," Jonas yelled back. "I needed a backup plan. Yes, I had files on potential candidates. Yes, you were on the list. But that night, in the cellar, I didn't know you were the one who would find them. That was real. My anger was real." "Was it?" Maya laughed bitterly. "Or was it just good acting? You manipulated me. You used my mother's cancer as leverage." "I saved your mother's life." "You bought me." Maya grabbed her tote bag from the hallway. "I'm leaving." "You can't," Jonas said, blocking the door. His eyes were wild. "The contract. If you leave before the year is up, the trust fund dissolves. The medical payments stop. Your mother gets kicked out of Mount Sinai tomorrow." Maya froze. She stared at him with pure hatred. "You would do that?" Jonas hesitated. He looked at her, his expression fracturing. He looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff. I can't let the merger fail, Maya. Too many jobs are at risk. Please, just stay. I'll stay, Maya whispered, her voice dead, because I love my mother. But don't you ever think, for 1 second, that this is a marriage. It's a prison. She walked past him, shoulder-checking him, and slammed the door to the guest bedroom. She locked it. Jonas stood alone in the hallway. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box he had bought that morning. A real ring. Not a prop. He threw it across the room. It bounced off the wall and rolled under the sofa. 2 days later. The atmosphere in the penthouse was toxic. They didn't speak. They slept in separate rooms. But the attacks weren't over. Maya was at the hospital, reading to her mother, when 2 police officers walked into the room. "Maya Blackwood?" the taller officer asked. "Yes?" Maya stood up, her heart racing. "We have a warrant for your arrest." Maya's mother woke up, confused. "Maya? What's happening?" "Arrest? For what?" Maya demanded. "Corporate espionage and grand larceny," the officer said, pulling out handcuffs. "We found confidential blueprints for Riker Corp's new prototype in your personal locker at the Blackwood estate, and a wire transfer of $50,000 from Dominic Sterling to your old bank account." Maya gasped. "That's a lie. I never took money from him. You can explain it at the station, Mum." They spun her around and cuffed her. "Mum, it's a mistake. Call Jonas." Maya screamed as they dragged her out. But as she was shoved into the back of the squad car, she saw a black sedan parked across the street. The window rolled down. Dominic Sterling was in the driver's seat. Beside him was Serena. Serena lowered her sunglasses. She smiled and waved a tiny, mock goodbye. At the police station. Maya sat in the interrogation room for hours. They showed her the evidence. It looked damning. A bank statement with her name. Emails from her account sending designs to Riker Corp. "I didn't send these," she said, her voice hoarse. "My email was hacked. It's a serious crime, Mrs. Blackwood. 15 years in prison." The door opened. Maya looked up, hoping to see a lawyer. It was Jonas. He looked terrible. His eyes were red-rimmed, his tie undone. He walked in and slammed his hands on the metal table. "Did you do it?" he asked. His voice was low, dangerous. "You have to ask," Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. "After everything." "The transfer came from Dominic, the man who tried to destroy me. Did you work with him? Did you plan this from the start? Was the Waitress finds cheater act just a way for you to infiltrate my company for him?" Maya stared at him in disbelief. He was doubting her. The files, the fake emails, it was working perfectly. Serena played on his paranoia. Jonas, who had been betrayed by everyone he loved, was primed to believe the worst. "Look at me, Jonas," Maya said clearly. "I am not Serena. I am not Dominic. I am the woman who saved you. If you can't see that, then leave. Let me rot here." Jonas stared at her. His jaw worked. He looked at the evidence on the table. Then he looked at her eyes. He stood up straight. He turned to the police captain standing by the wall. "My wife is coming home with me. Mr. Blackwood, the evidence is circumstantial and fabricated," Jonas barked. "I have the best cyber forensics team on the East Coast. They are tracing the IP addresses of those emails right now. And if you keep my wife in this cell 1 minute longer, I will sue this department into the Stone Age." He reached down and pulled Maya up by her arm. He didn't hug her. He didn't say sorry. He just marched her out of the station, through the swarm of paparazzi, and into his car. Inside the car, the silence was heavy. "Why did you come?" Maya asked softly. "You thought I was guilty." "I feared you were guilty," Jonas corrected. "There is a difference." And He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He showed her a photo. It was a screenshot of a security log. "Someone used my passkey to access the server room last night at 3 a.m., Jonas said, "while I was asleep. The only person who has access to my passkey is me, or someone who shares my bedroom." Maya's eyes widened. "You think I stole your key?" "You locked your door," Jonas said. "But the logs say the key was used, which means someone broke into the penthouse." "Or," Maya said, a realization hitting her like a bolt of lightning, "someone never left." Jonas looked at her. "What?" "The night of the wedding?" Maya said, her mind racing. "The staff. You have a butler, Andrian, a housekeeper, Maria. Who hires them?" "The agency. Dominic used to manage the household staff contracts." They looked at each other. The realization was terrifying. The enemy wasn't just outside the gates. The enemy was inside the house. "Turn the car around," Jonas yelled at the driver. "Go to the server facility, now." "Why?" Maya asked. "Because if Dominic has a man inside, they didn't just plant evidence on you," Jonas said, his face pale. "They planted a virus in the main server. At midnight tonight, when the merger officially processes, the virus will wipe Blackwood & Co.'s accounts to zero." He checked his watch. "It's 10:45 p.m. We have 75 minutes to save the company." "And to clear my name," Maya added, gripping the door handle. Jonas looked at her. He held out his hand. "Partner?" he asked. Maya looked at his hand. She was still angry about the Clytemnestra files. She was hurt, but they had a common enemy. She took his hand. "Drive fast," she said. The black Maybach tore down the West Side Highway, weaving through late-night traffic at 90 miles an hour. Rain had started to fall, slicking the asphalt with a dangerous sheen. Inside, Jonas was typing furiously on a laptop, the screen reflecting in his frantic eyes. "I can't access the remote admin panel," he cursed, slamming his fist against the leather armrest. "Andrian, if it is Andrian, has physically severed the external connection. He's air-gapped the system. We have to be there in person to kill the script." "How much time?" Maya asked, gripping the handle above the door as the car swerved around a taxi. 38 minutes until midnight. The virus executes at 12 and towards. It's a wiper. It rewrites every financial record with zeros. If it hits, Blackwood & Co. ceases to exist. No payroll, no shipping manifests, no assets. We'll be bankrupt by sunrise. The server farm was located in a nondescript industrial park in Long Island City. It was a fortress of concrete and steel, usually guarding billions of dollars of data. Tonight, it looked like a tomb. The car screeched to a halt at the security gate. The guard booth was empty. "They've cleared the personnel," Jonas said, kicking the car door open. "Stay in the car, Maya." "Not a chance," she said, jumping out into the rain. "You need 2 people to override the manual lockdown. I saw you do it during the drill last week." Jonas looked at her. Rain plastered her hair to her face. She looked fierce. He nodded once. "Run!" They sprinted across the wet pavement to the main entrance. The electronic reader was dead. Jonas pulled a heavy magnetic key from his pocket, a master override meant for fire departments. He jammed it into the slot. The heavy steel doors groaned and slid open a few inches. They squeezed through into the lobby. It was pitch black, lit only by the red emergency strobes pulsing silently. "Andrian!" Jonas yelled, his voice echoing in the cavernous hall. A figure stepped out from the shadows of the security station. It was Andrian, the elderly butler who had served Jonas his coffee that very morning. But the kindly demeanor was gone. In his hand was a tablet, glowing with the progress bar of the virus upload. "I'm sorry, sir," Andrian said, his voice trembling but resolved. "Mr. Sterling offered me $5 million. My retirement fund, It wasn't enough. "Andrian, shut it down!" Jonas stepped forward. "I can't," Andrian said. "I locked the server room from the inside. Even I can't get back in. The countdown is automated now. 10 minutes!" Jonas lunged, grabbing Andrian by the lapels of his suit. "You just destroyed my life!" "Jonas!" Maya shouted. She wasn't looking at Andrian. She was looking at the ventilation schematics on the wall. "The cooling system." Jonas turned. "What?" "The servers overheat if the cooling stops, right?" Maya pointed. "If we cut the coolant, the system triggers a thermal emergency shutdown to protect the hardware. It cuts the power before the software can execute." Jonas's eyes widened. "It's a hard kill. It risks corrupting the data, but it stops the virus. Do it!" "The coolant controls are in the basement," Jonas said, dropping Andrian, who slumped to the floor in shame. "Come on!" They ran for the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. The basement was a maze of pipes and roaring machinery. The heat was already rising. "There!" Jonas pointed to a massive red wheel on a yellow pipe labeled primary coolant flow. They ran to it. Jonas grabbed the wheel and pulled. It didn't budge. It was rusted tight or jammed. "Help me!" Maya grabbed the other side of the wheel. "On 3! 1, 2, 3!" They pulled with everything they had. Maya's heels slipped on the wet concrete. She kicked them off. She gritted her teeth, straining until her muscles screamed. "It's moving!" Jonas yelled. The wheel groaned, a screech of metal on metal. Steam hissed from a release valve, scalding hot. "Keep going!" Maya screamed over the roar of the machinery. They turned it 1 full rotation, then another. The hissing turned into a deafening roar as the pressure dropped. Above them, the red emergency lights turned blue. An automated voice boomed over the intercom. "Critical temperature warning. System shut down in T-minus 60 seconds. Jonas looked at his watch. 11:58 p.m. We did it. They collapsed against the pipe, gasping for air, sweat and rain mixing on their faces. Jonas looked at Maya. Her dress was ruined, her feet were bare and dirty, and she had a smear of grease on her cheek. He thought she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "You saved the company," he breathed. "We saved it," she corrected. Suddenly, Jonas's phone buzzed. It was a text from Dominic. "Checkmate, cousin. Enjoy the poverty." Jonas stared at the screen. A dark, terrifying smile spread across his face. "He thinks he won," Jonas whispered. "He thinks the virus wiped the accounts. Didn't it?" "No." Jonas stood up, helping Maya to her feet. "The thermal shutdown killed the power before the command executed. The money is safe. But Dominic doesn't know that yet." He looked at Maya, his eyes burning with a cold fire. "Do you trust me?" Maya looked at the man who had bought her, lied to her, and then fought beside her in the trenches of a cooling room. "Yes," she said. "Good. Because we're going to a party." The penthouse of the Riker Corp building was hosting the merger victory party. But it wasn't the merger Jonas had planned. It was a preemptive celebration for Dominic Sterling and Victor Draven, who believed they were about to buy the wreckage of Blackwood & Co. for pennies. Serena was there, holding a flute of champagne, laughing with a group of bankers. Dominic was smoking a cigar, looking out at the city skyline like a king. "It's done," Dominic said, checking his watch. 12:15 a.m. By now, Jonas's accounts are reading 0. The stock will plummet when the markets open. We buy at 9:00 a.m. "To the new regime," Victor Draven toasted, raising his glass. The elevator doors at the far end of the room chimed. The chatter died down. Everyone turned. Jonas Blackwood walked in. He was soaking wet. His shirt was clinging to his chest, his hair wild. Beside him walked Maya, barefoot, holding her heels in one hand, her emerald dress torn at the hem. They looked like they had walked out of a shipwreck. They looked dangerous. "Sorry we're late," Jonas said, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "We had some plumbing issues." Dominic laughed nervously. "Jonas, you look washed up." "Come to surrender?" "Actually," Jonas said, walking past the stunned guests to the bar. He poured himself a whiskey and one for Maya. "I came to thank you." "Thank me?" Dominic narrowed his eyes. "For the stress test," Jonas said, taking a sip. "You see, my chief security officer just informed me that a thermal shutdown occurred at the server farm at 11:59 p.m. The system went offline. The virus never executed." The color drained from Dominic's face. The cigar fell from his fingers. "That's impossible," Serena squeaked. "Is it?" Jonas pulled a folded piece of paper from his wet pocket, the thermal log he had ripped from the printer in the basement. He slammed it onto the bar. "The data is intact. The money is safe. And tomorrow morning, the Blackwood-Halloway merger proceeds as planned." Victor Draven looked at Dominic with fury. "You told me he was finished. You told me the code was unstoppable." "It was," Dominic stammered. "Andrian said—" "Andrian," Jonas interrupted, "is currently explaining to the FBI how you paid him $5 million to commit industrial sabotage, and how Serena here," he pointed a finger at his ex-fiancée, "provided him with the access codes she stole from my safe while I was in the shower 3 months ago." Serena dropped her glass. "Jonas, please. I was confused. Dominic made me do it." "He made you cheat on me in a wine cellar too?" Jonas asked dryly. "Or was that your own initiative?" The room was silent. The bankers and socialites slowly began to back away from Dominic and Serena, sensing the radioactive fallout. Jonas turned to Maya. "Do you have the recording?" Maya reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. She pressed play. It was a recording from the car ride, connected to the server room's audio feed, where Andrian had confessed. "Mr. Sterling offered me $5 million. I locked the server room. It was over. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting louder. Jonas finished his drink. I'd suggest you call your lawyers, but frankly, I don't think you can afford them anymore." The police arrived 3 minutes later. The sight of Serena Sterling being handcuffed in her red dress, screaming obscenities at Maya, was an image that would grace the cover of the New York Post for a week. Dominic went quietly, his head hung low, knowing he had lost everything. As the police cleared the room, Jonas and Maya were left standing alone on the balcony, the wind whipping around them. The adrenaline crashed. Maya suddenly felt the exhaustion of the last month hit her. Her knees buckled. Jonas caught her. "I've got you," he said, pulling her close. "I've got you." He didn't let go. They stood there for a long time, holding each other in the rain-soaked clothes, high above the city that had tried to eat them alive. 1 week later. The scandal had settled. The merger was complete. Blackwood & Co. was stronger than ever. Maya sat in the garden of the Hamptons estate. Her mother had been discharged from the hospital that morning, cancer-free and resting in the guest cottage. Jonas walked out onto the terrace. He was holding 2 envelopes. He sat down opposite her. He looked nervous. It was a look she had never seen on him before. "The lawyers drafted the divorce papers," he said, sliding the first envelope across the table. "You can sign them. The trust fund is yours. The house for your mother is yours. You're free, Maya. You held up your end of the deal." Maya looked at the envelope. It was everything she had wanted. Freedom. Security. No more debt. "And the other envelope?" she asked. Jonas looked down at his hands. "That's something else." He slid it over. Maya opened it. It wasn't a legal document. It was a handwritten letter. Maya I calculated the probability of the merger succeeding. I calculated the risk of the virus. I can calculate anything. But I couldn't calculate you. You didn't just save my company. You woke me up. You are the only person who has ever seen me. Not the billionaire, not the CEO, but the man. I don't want a contract anymore. I want a partner. I want a friend. I want you. Tear up the divorce papers. Stay. Not because you have to, but because you want to. J. Maya read it twice. Her eyes filled with tears. She looked at Jonas. He was holding his breath. "You're terrible at proposals," she said, a smile breaking through the tears. "You didn't even get down on one knee." "I can," Jonas said, starting to stand up. "Sit down," she laughed. She picked up the divorce papers. She ripped them in half, then in quarters. She let the pieces fall onto the grass. "I'm staying," she said, "but we need to renegotiate the terms." "Anything," Jonas said instantly. "Name your price." "No more secrets," Maya said. "No more Project Clytemnestra. If we do this, we do it for real. We fight together." "Deal," Jonas said. He reached across the table and took her hand. This time, there were no cameras, no reporters, no shareholders. "And one more thing," Maya added, squeezing his hand. "Yes? I'm firing the chef. I make better lasagna than he does." Jonas threw his head back and laughed, a loud, genuine sound that echoed through the garden. "Sold!" He leaned across the table and kissed her. It tasted like champagne and rain and a future that belonged entirely to them. The waitress had saved the billionaire. But in the end, they had saved each other. From the shadows of a wine cellar to the heights of a corporate empire, Maya proved that integrity is worth more than $1 billion. Serena and Dominic thought they could play the game, but they forgot the most important rule. Never underestimate the person who brings you your dinner, because they see everything. Jonas and Maya's story is a reminder that sometimes the biggest twists in life lead to the best endings. If you loved this story of betrayal, revenge, and romance, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a drama. And tell me in the comments, would you have forgiven Jonas for the secret files? I'll see you in the next story.